Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope you are all doing well, and welcome to this second or night-ending bonus upload. Before we jump on into it, a couple quick links. As many of you may know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. These audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because all these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter, and they are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to this second or night-ending bonus upload, shall we? 10:30 comes around and I get a call from Bumpus Mills, Tennessee. And it's Sharon. I have never shared her name before, but she allowed me to today. She said this is too important not to. Sharon, of course, is the woman who lives in Bumpus Mills, just southeast of the land between the lakes. Her brother-in-law owns a gunsmith shop and a firearms shop. They had a shootout with a Dogman after it attacked and killed both of her Rottweilers. It was then found by government or contractors, from what her and her brother stated to me, or brother-in-law stated to me, is that it was not government how they described them. They were more or less contractors, probably working for the government. So it had been quiet for the last 13 days. And last night at 4:30 p.m. in the afternoon, she was on her way home from work. Now she was going to take the back way home, and she's on her road going home, and there is a large field out there that you can see everything. There's a pond, not in the middle of the field, but pretty close to the middle. There's some tree rows in this field. And she said, I don't know what made me look in that field, but I did. And there were what appeared to be cows, 4 or 5 cows out by the pond. That's what she thought at first. So she's going to her house, and she realizes as she's passing them that they are not cows. She storms up her road, and to the back side of her property is her sister and brother-in-law's home. She pulls in and says, I don't know what I just saw, but I know they weren't cows. Come check this out with me. Her sister and her brother-in-law pile into her little car, her SUV, and they drive back down towards the field. As she's driving back, the road that she lives on, it's almost like a square it's a loop kind of. And from where her home is, she can go all the way around back to her home. So she comes back down the road from her brother-in-law's, and they turn back onto Wall Hollow. Now, as she's going down Wall Hollow Road, they see the cows, air quotes, and they stop just before the wood line ends. There's a wood line right there. So they can see these creatures. They don't think the creatures can see them. They stand up and look in the direction of her SUV. They realize that this is now for Dogman. She backs up into a neighbor's driveway and turns back around to go back up her side road to her home. They end up going to her brother-in-law's house and her sister's house. She's got no one at home. Her dogs have been killed. And she is petrified. She thought 2 weeks ago this was over. They get to the house and they get inside. The brother-in-law says, all right, we're good. Lock the doors. Make sure everything's locked. He goes and gets a couple of firearms. And as he's coming up the stairs, a Dogman, what he sees passes a window. They have these, vertical blinds. So he just sees a shadow of it pass by the window. That he's coming up the stairs, and the window is in front of the stairs, so he can see clearly that it went right by him. No sooner did that happen, did they hear, he lives in a ranch home, did they hear a bunch of racket on the top of their house. What can he do? He can't shoot through his ceiling. So they start to kind of figure this out. What are we going to do? Call the police. Call the sheriffs. So where Stewart County Sheriff's substation would be, it's about 15, 20 minutes from where they would be to their house. The wife, not Sharon, but her sister, gets on the phone, and the phone, they have a landline, is dead. She gets on her cell phone and calls the sheriff. We have an intruder. We don't know what it is. There's people on our property. Send help. My husband will shoot them. The husband now is like, they're starting to realize that they are being tactically cut off from the rest of the world, because all of a sudden the power goes out. These creatures were smart enough to cut the power and cut the phone line. How the hell do they know what a phone line and power line is? We're talking about a creature that lives in the woods, that sleeps in dirt. Probably will sleep in their own excrement. We view them as, yes, they are very intelligent while hunting and tracking people and other animals in the woods, but how would they know about modern technology such as electricity and a home phone line? The sheriff or deputies, excuse me, call back, and they are approximately 30 minutes out. They are coming from Indian Mound, and they are now in Dover, which is a distance away, right on Lake Barclay, land between the lakes. Much closer, but not too far away. Sharon gets the phone from the sister and tells them exactly what is going on. This is who it is, Sharon, yada yada, her last name. This is what happened a couple of weeks ago. It was about 19 days ago, and then 13 days ago, the contractors came and did what they needed to do, almost having a shootout with the county police or county sheriffs, Stewart County sheriffs. There are dogmen, werewolves on our home. What do you want us to do? What are we supposed to do? The power is out. They're on the roof. Help us. We're X amount away. Excuse me, ma'am. One of the deputies picks up and, ma'am, we are on our way. This is... Sorry, there was people walking by. I had to hit pause because it's late at night now. It's about 11:30 and I'm recording this. And people were walking down the sidewalk yelling, probably drunk. So the deputy then responds. I was one of the responding deputies that was there the initial time. Stay inside. Stay inside. I know you have firearms. Protect yourself at all costs. Don't go outside. So they are now stuck in this small home. Not small, but it's a ranch home. A decent size home. They are hearing these creatures just run up and down their roof, run through the yards. They are looking for a way inside the house. Now, I asked her, I said, do you think they could have just, why do you think they didn't just rip the door off? And she said, I have no idea. She said, but that's what I was afraid of. They were posted up. They had the sisters were by the front door and the husband was by the side or back door. Waiting for an entrance, but it never came. 15 minutes go by and there's still no police. She is petrified. The husband's petrified. All of a sudden, a couple more minutes go by and the deputies arrive. They can hear the cars pull in, and they hear a really quick succession of siren. What she thinks is that the deputies turned the siren on to scare or to get the creatures to notice them, to get them away from the house. The brother-in-law is now looking outside of the door or window that he didn't open the door. He's looking outside of the window that when he was coming up the stairs, their side or back door, it's their side door of the house, but it goes to their backyard. He's looking at that, trying to figure out what is going on, how many police are here. Are they going to live or die? The police pull into this guy's driveway. It's a pretty large driveway. And the Dogmen, all four of them, run directly. This is the brother-in-law. He was with Sharon. They ran directly at the police cars. The second the sirens burr on, the attention was drawn off of the house onto them. They ran full speed ahead toward the police cars. A couple ran right over one of the cars and headed northwest, which would be Lake Pickwick, L.B.L. One of the deputies shot at one of the creatures. He believes that he hit it, but he only shot with his sidearm, not a shotgun, not a AR platform. Three of the deputies left. One stayed back to talk to Sharon, her sister, and the brother-in-law. The brother-in-law fills the deputy in. He's telling me what, little bit, not much happened at that point. They're from Stewart County originally, born, bred, families raised, and the three deputies come back. One stays back behind. They all leave. The deputies end up leaving. One of the deputies went to school and is very good friends with the brother-in-law. They go hunting together, fishing together, and they've known each other since elementary school, he said. What this deputy said happened after they chased them is these creatures ran through the small unincorporated town of Bumpus Mills. They ran straight to this public park called Saline Creek Park. It connects to Bumpus Mills Campground. These creatures were keeping distance back from the cars. They were flying. They were not flying, but they were running. The deputies were in pursuit. They hit that area, and the last this one deputy saw as they were going into, because there's not many roads that are in this Bumpus Mills campground, but Bumpus Mills campground connects to the Cumberland River. The Cumberland River, for those of you who don't know, connects to Lake Barclay. Lake Barclay is connected and part of the area of the land between the lakes. He saw the four Dogmen run straight back into the Cumberland River going towards the L.B.L. They weren't stopping. They knew they were observed. The one deputy said these creatures did not care who saw them and where they ran. They had almost a mapped out location on where to run. Like, these creatures were tactically spot on. They knew where to run to get away from these deputies. And I'm not just talking in the woods. I'm talking in Bumpus Mills. how they ran. They ran through people's yards. They ran on the road until they got to where they could get away and stay gone for the time being. So now Sharon is convinced that these creatures, mind you, she was coming home from work. She just happened to be driving, she just happened to look over as she was on her way home out into the field just to look. And what she thought she saw was 5 to 4 cattle. Then realizing that there was 4 dogmen. She's not under the impression that at first they knew who she was. She doesn't feel like that. She thinks what really messed matters up the worst was when they came back and sat at the edge of that tree line looking into that field. And before they knew what could, these creatures stood up and started to go towards them. How they got to their home, how did these things know? That's her biggest question. Mine is, what are you going to do? But how in God's green earth did these creatures know to cut a power line? The phone line could have been coincidentally where they ripped, but the wires going into the house from the telephone poles is in like the eve of their home were ripped out. How did they know to do that? These are creatures that, left to their own devices, will learn. I believe that. The deputy that shared when they ran and he tracked them back to Cumberland, and he believes they ran up into Lake Barclay, following the water's edge and into the L.B.L. When they were on their way back from the call back to Bumpus Mills. Now, the deputy that is friends with the brother-in-law, went to school with him, known him practically his entire life, shares this stuff that, we fouled it up to the Bumpus Mills campground, the saline there, into Cumberland. He then looks at the brother-in-law and says, we were just south of you guys less than an hour ago. We were called in because they were in Indian Mound. Indian Mound is a straight shot to Bumpus Mills. All of these, they were called because a horse had been attacked by an unknown animal, possibly a bear. When the deputy arrived on scene, there was 2 deputies arriving out there because if it was a bear and they had to dispatch it, they caught the glimpse of one of the dogmen. They did the reports. By then, the other 2 had shown up, the other 2 deputy. And as they were wrapping up, these dogmen went from Indian Mound straight up to the field just outside of Sharon's home probably getting a drink from a pond after running. Sharon sees them. They stop, blah, blah, blah. They go and do the damage to the house. So, and then they another straight shot to Lake Barclay, Cumberland River or whatever, right up to Lake Barclay. It's all connected. It's all right there. So my whole point of this is, did these creatures go out today or yesterday, excuse me, in search or whatever of messing with Sharon and her family again? Or did, by chance, when Sharon stopped and looked with her brother-in-law and sister, did they look, when they stopped there at the tree line and saw them, did the Dogmen see them, not realize who they were, and just randomly attack? But this whole, where they were, so Indian Mound, the sheriffs went through Dover to get to Bumpus Mills, but these creatures ran straight up. They mapped out. They had a map, pretty much a mental map of how to get from point A to B to C, then to D. The quickest and most efficient way. But yet then, in the middle of all that, how the hell did they know to disable these people from the rest of the world by taking out their power line? I think, see, where the power line goes in and phone line go into the home is right in the crook of the eave of the house. So I don't think they purposely took the power phone line out. I think they were going for the power line and just dismantled everything at that point. But how the hell did they know to do that? And are they looking for a revenge? Is that another thing? I asked Sharon, I said, please come on the show. I said, I'm not giving this justice. I'm not you. She said she'll think about it, and if she does, it'll be next week sometime. This is unbelievable. This is mind-blowing. Guys, stay safe. Be vigilant of what your surroundings are. Because if you live out in the country, or you live just, I don't even know anymore. I don't even think it's just the country anymore. But you see one of these creatures, be aware of everything, aware of all your surroundings. Because to me, this just shows that they are more cunning, more dangerous, and more intelligent than we thought. Yes, we all knew that they were these things. But to me, now, I think these things are a lot smarter than we gave them credit for. I think there possibly may be some intellect possibly better than human. I don't know. I'm not an expert. I'm just sharing this with you. And, when I do research, it's into attacks. But I'm not an expert in that either. All I know is this is crazy. To map out an attack, to possibly seek out revenge, and then to cut the family off from everything else shows superior intelligence, cunning, and violence. Guys, I'll see you later on tonight. Be safe. And may the Great Spirit watch out for us all and guide us down that path we call life. All right, so my subscriber who reached out to me just the other day, past weekend, we had a 2-hour conversation. She lives in this very small, unincorporated town called Bumpus Mills, a very small rural community. Her brother-in-law, her husband had passed away. Her brother-in-law and sister live behind her. Her brother-in-law is a gunsmith, and he has a small gun store behind them. She lives in front of them on a small rural road. Now, Bumpus Mills is she said it's about a half an hour to the L.B.L. She has gone hiking there. They've gone fishing. You know, it's right there. So with the weather change that we've been having, it was a really nice night out. About 2 weeks ago. So 3 weeks ago, I'm just going based what she told me. So 3 weeks ago, the weather was kind of nicer than normal, and which we all know it has been. And she is outside with her 2 Rottweilers. She has a beautiful backyard. There's deep woods behind her, and there's a road that runs aside of these woods that goes to her sister's house and her brother-in-law's house. So she's out there enjoying the weather. She said she was actually having a glass of wine. She was trying to work out numbers. She was on her laptop working. She has had 2 beautiful Rottweilers, 2 males that were 4 years old. Now, she had heard some noises out in the woods behind her home, and these woods are pretty deep. Not excessively deep like deep Appalachian woods, but this is deep. It's probably 5 o'clock. She grabs the dogs, they bring them in, she feeds them, and she didn't bring the dogs in because of the noise. The noise kind of reminded her of, hey, what time is it? Because she was going over her numbers on her laptop. She kind of lost track of time. She wanted to get something to eat. It was time to feed the dogs because she has the dogs on a regiment. You know, they eat twice a day. This is very important to her. She really loved these dogs. She got them right after her husband had passed away. So she goes in and has dinner. The dogs eat, and it's still about, she said, roughly 55 degrees outside still. So she put on a sweater and went out back again. Probably an hour and a half later, it's just starting to get dark now, where she can't see past her fence line. She has a chain link. She sits down, and the dogs are out. They're romping around, playing. All of a sudden, she hears the back chain link kind of jiggle. But it was very aggressive and very hard. Like, it was just a very rapid pull on the fence. The dogs hear it instantly. Bam, they turn around and start this really deep growl. She's heard her dogs growl before and bark before. They're Rotties. That's what they do. They're very vocal. She's not sure what she at first thought maybe her brother-in-law was playing a joke on her. Came up through the trails behind her house, from their house, and she ended up looking out there, couldn't see anything. She stands up to get a better view. She yells out her brother-in-law's name. The dogs have now gone into full-on protect the house mode. She hears her dogs growling very deep because they're big dogs. They're not a small dog. They were not small. They were about 130 pounds each. Just muscular, strong dogs. She took care of these dogs. They were like her child. She walked them all the time. They had a balanced diet. Like I said, these dogs were very important to her. Through the growl, she hears this deeper growl, and it was longer than her dog's. As that happens, one of her dogs makes a kind of whine and circles, kind of walks back towards the deck, and he's about 20 feet from the deck. The other one's still about 50 feet from the deck. The yard is probably from her back door to the fence line is anywhere between 100 to 120 feet. So there's some distance between the two Rotties now. She's looking. She calls out to her brother-in-law again. Nothing. But this very deep growl happens again. The other dog, who is 50 feet away from her at this point, takes off in a just full-on sprint. The second that dog does, the second dog goes, just barreling down the yard. She hears whatever is behind this fence crash over the fence. She said it sounded like it had just pushed the fence down and was in her yard at that point. And she hears her dogs just savagely growling, barking, and gnashing. She goes she opens her back door, goes into her kitchen, grabs her cell phone, which is on her kitchen table, and she has a pistol. She said everyone I know has a pistol. And because we were talking about pistol permits in New York and how crazy New York State is now, and she grabs her pistol. She calls her brother-in-law. She's got her sidearm out. She has it's a .380, and at that point she knows that she carries it for protection against a human, not anything else. She's a good shot, she said. She is on the phone with her brother-in-law, or her sister actually answered first, and she said, what's his name? I'm not going to use his name. In my backyard. Are you guys messing with me? Because the boys are now back there growling at something. She said, no, here's my husband, your brother-in-law. And she then hears, he answers her, he starts talking, and she says, there's something in the backyard. He's on the phone with her. They're talking. He can hear what's going on, very not crystal clear, but he can hear the fight, the attack. All of a sudden, she hears this whine cry, and she sees one of her 130-pound Rottweilers get thrown through the air back towards where she is. And it lands probably 30 feet from her. So whatever this thing was had thrown her dog. The dog's trying to get up. It's having a hard time. She can't see if there's blood. She's got her floodlight on, but it's still dark. She hears the other one still fighting, and then she hears another whine. Nothing. She then can hear whatever is back there. She hears this wet gnashing sound, she said. The other Rottweiler manages to get up and gets back to where he was. And she said she saw him kind of trying to run back out there for his brother. And he falls because he's been attacked. She sees this arm come out of the darkness and grab the other dog and pull it out of the lighted area of the yard to where her other dog and this creature is. And she hears this terrible whine. She said she'll never forget it for the rest of her life. She started crying at that point. The majority of the conversation, we had to stop talking a few times because she was crying. So when I do interview her, she will be very emotional. She, at that point, says, "You're not out there," and to her brother-in-law, and she blindly shoots. She said, "I know that what I did was irresponsible as a gun owner, but I was scared. I was upset. Emotions had gotten the better of me." The brother-in-law hears the shots, hangs up the phone, and gets his firearm. He actually ended up grabbing his shotgun, and he has a 10mm pistol on him, and drives up. They're maybe 400, a football field away. Not very far, but there's woods separating them. He gets to her side yard from the road and drives off the road into her side yard and puts his high beams on the truck, shining into the backyard. When he did that, she was able to see what was back there. They both were able to see what was back there. What she saw was one of her dogs was on the ground, and this creature, a Dogman, was standing on it. It had its one back leg onto the dog. The dog was not moving. The dog was dead at that time. The other one was in the air with this Dogman, I guess, eating it, biting it, but she said it looked like it was eating my dog. She stopped right there again. This was one of the hardest interviews I've ever had to do. The brother-in-law gets out of his truck and goes to the fence. Now, he's in the side yard, so he's looking at her. He's kind of almost even with her. She's on her deck. He's on the other side of the fence. This creature is on the inside of the fence in the back. And he proceeds to empty his shotgun into this monster. She said, I know it hit it at least 3 times. This creature was at least 8.5 feet tall. She has a bird feeder or a bird house out in the back on the opposite side of her fence. And it is 10-foot tall pole with a bird feeder house on top. So when she has to feed it, she has a ladder that she has on the other side of the fence where she opens the ladder and feeds. She used that as an estimate of the height of this creature. She then sees this. They both see it. It's a monster of a creature. It's like it's not black, but it is that it has more gray to it. It's a silverish gray and black color. The predominant color in its hair is a silverish gray with black. It has these burning, she said they were burning hellfired eyes. It was at the point where he shot it, her dog, the creature had dropped the other dog. The third shot had hit this creature and it dropped to all fours. She said it looked like this thing was going to charge me or my brother-in-law. He drops his shotgun, yells to her, "Get inside your house and lock the door. Call the police. Call 911. She shuts her slider and stares outside the slider. He unloads this 10mm into this thing. It stands up and crosses across her backyard the opposite way of where he is, and kind of cuts into the woods. Now, this is Stewart County, Tennessee. So roughly 35 minutes later, a sheriff comes, Stewart County Sheriff. He is on his way to her house. The way the creature ran would have probably put it, she said, it must have gone past my sister and brother-in-law's house through those woods and went out into a road called Wall Hollow Road. As this sheriff was coming to her home, this creature ran in front of him. He stopped, looked at the creature as it ran into another set of woods, into a field, and continued to haul ass away from the area. He drives to her house. He's thinking this is a bear because of how large it was. It was on all fours, and it was so quick when it went by. So the sheriff ends up getting to the house. He knows everybody anyway. He knows the brother-in-law. At this point, the sister is now there, trying to console her because of her dogs just being savagely killed in front of her. The sheriff goes in the backyard. He gets kind of a feel of everything from her, the brother-in-law. The sheriff and the brother-in-law go to the backyard to look at the damage that was done, to see if the fence was broken, to cover the dogs, to, just take care of the situation. One of the dogs' carcasses wasn't there. When that creature dropped on all fours, it apparently had grabbed the one that it was standing on and ran with it. When they were looking for the dog, the other dog, the brother-in-law said, "Where's the other Roddy? Where's the dog?" The sheriff said, "I just saw a bear, and it appeared to be carrying a cub, and it ran across the street from me about 60 feet in front of me. I didn't get a great look, but I saw it booking through. Do you think that's what caused this?" The brother-in-law went inside, explained the situation. She's then just a mess. About an hour later, there are 4 more sheriff deputies in her yard looking through these woods. They combed the woods. They went on these back roads, looking for the creature. The sheriff that initially shows up, and he then decides, hey, I'm going to go check and see if I can see where, this thing ran through. He goes down the back way off of, he kind of loops around and kind of follows the way he went to her house. And then goes down Wall Hollow onto a farm road. This farm road is off of a interstate, or not an interstate, county road 120. He drives down the dirt farm road, and as he's coming into the road, one of the farmers kind of sees the car and comes out and says, "Hey, what's all the ordeal? What are you down here for? Yada yada." And he said, "Hey, we just saw this bear. A bear just attacked what's her name's dogs." And he said, "I didn't see no bear around here. There's, He proceeds to say, "All right, if you see anything," and goes down this dirt road a little more. And at the end of the dirt road is a farm field. There's a farmhouse, another farmhouse, and a field. It's almost like a kind of a turn off, and to get out of there and back to the main county road. As he's turning, he looks out and he sees this air quotes bear standing up with the carcass of this woman's dog. He gets out of his vehicle, takes his long rifle out of his car, and gets behind his car and takes a couple of shots. He believes that it hit the dog, or hit the dog man, because it made a very strange noise, and it took off running back the way it came. It had still this dog in its grips. The sheriff then proceeds to go back the way he came, and as he's coming up onto Wall Hollow Road again to turn to her road, or turn to the road that leads to her house, it goes right by his or her brother-in-law's house, there's the carcass of the dog. And he gets out, stops, radios for another deputy to come. The other deputy takes a different route. Instead of going down the road that connects from her house, the road that the brother-in-law had to travel up. Instead of going that way, he went around onto 120. He went down this small road onto 120 and then up to Wall Hollow, because he had no idea. He just said, I'm on Wall Hollow. So the sheriff's like, all right, I'll go this way. As he's getting out, he sees the air quotes bear now running bipedally towards L.B.L. And doesn't stop. He just keeps going to get to where the other deputy was. The dog that was left in the yard had huge claw marks on its flanks, on its back of its neck, head. The dog that the sheriff recovered was missing its back half. It was missing both its back legs and a large portion of its midsection, the soft innards where that would be. She hasn't seen it since. She doesn't want to see it since. She buried her dogs, and she, like I said, she just is starting her business. Now, all she can focus on is her loss. These dogs were meant to help her cope with the loss of her husband. They were 4 years old. They were her babies. They didn't sleep on her bed. One would sleep on one side of the bed and one would sleep on the other side. They protected her and loved her. She loved them. The fence in the back was pushed down. So when the creature came over the fence, it pushed down on the fence. The fence was about a 5-foot chain link. At that one section where it pushed, the fence probably, she said, was about 3 feet tall, like a dip. She said she's got to wait until probably mid-spring, summer to fix the fence because, she's just doesn't have the funds to fix it and really can't deal with much more. They buried their dogs, or she buried her dogs. Her brother-in-law and sister she still owns her home. She's not going to sell her home, but she's living now around the corner with her sister and brother-in-law at their home, which their home has his gunsmith and gun store. This is a very tragic case, very terrifying event. I'm not doing it justice because I'm not her. But these deputies saw it. I said, well, what did the deputies say? And they kept referring to it as a bear. Actually, in the report, it was stated that it was a bear attack. They were very polite and did their job, by the book. But there was no consoling after the fact that they labeled it as a bear attack. There was nothing more. Like I said, she's not in her home. She's at her sister's house, which is right around the corner. She said it's going to be a long while before I can be home alone again. So that is the gist of the interview that got deleted off my computer when my computer crashed. Hopefully within the next 2 to 3 weeks, I can have her on. She's willing to come back, but she just needs time because she's trying to she was coping with all of this tragedy and attack experience that did not make any sense to her. Her brain cannot really, she's actually heard of Dogman before. She knows people that live close by to the L.B.L. and, it's not something talked about openly in public, but it is when you know people, Hopefully she can come on and fill in any blanks. But once again, I know that when she does, it's going to be a very hard interview to have her do. Okay, so after the upload on Bumpus Mills the other day, Caroline got in touch with me and had her brother-in-law on there. He's the one who unloaded shotgun and 10 millimeter on the creature. The last they were aware, the Dogman had doubled back through the woods behind her house and proceeded to run on down a little bit onto a road and cut through some woods off of this road called Wall Hollow Road. That's per a sheriff, Stewart County Sheriff. And the brother-in-law, because I had said that Caroline and the family had heard of Dogman, they live quite close to the L.B.L. L.B.L. is part of Stewart County, Tennessee, as well as a couple other counties in Kentucky. So they immediately assumed that it was heading towards the L.B.L. Instead, like I said, he is a gunsmith and well known in the community. Apparently, this creature continued to run through the woods in Bumpus Mills. Now, the geography of the town it consists of large patches of woods, large patches of fields, and here and there some ponds, a couple of houses here and there, a couple of stores here and there, post office, obviously, and a few churches. Now, Bumpus Mills is a unincorporated town, so there's not a lot of people here, and everybody knows everybody. A few days after all this went down, a gentleman who they are all familiar with went into the brother-in-law's business in the guise of talking about a rifle. What he had said to the brother-in-law was kind of, did y'all lose something that made its way onto my property, leading to me having unwelcomed guests on my property? The way the brother-in-law said this gentleman spoke to him, he was pretty irate. This gentleman owns a large portion of the community. A huge farm, a small logging business, pretty much owns his own couple of roads. And like stated, the creature, the air quotes bear, was pretty badly injured. The brother-in-law had unloaded on this thing. So it continued to run through the woods, and what it did was it hit this area. It's kind of like a small patch of land with, it's kind of sets in the middle of these woods. It's a field, but it's not a field. It's just an empty piece of land. And the creature ended up dying there. So the Stewart County Sheriff's Department is looking all over for this thing. Of course, with technology today, they have the capability of drones, aerial, and stuff like that. Well, apparently, before the sheriffs even knew where this thing was, there was 3 SUVs and a cargo van, panel van. He said it was kind of like a smaller U-Haul van, not like a panel van. You know, door kind of slides open in the back. It's not the big one, but it was not a U-Haul truck. It was painted jet black, and this gentleman who owns the land that all of this went down on had seen dust and dirt coming out of his property. You know, you have 3 SUVs and a panel van coming into a dirt road, kind of, it's almost like a parking lot, but it's dirt. It's a work parking lot. It's a logging area. There's excavators on the premises and stuff like that. Now, that's where they parked. And men got out of the SUVs. Men actually got out of the back of the panel van. The gentleman who had told the brother-in-law all of this said there was at least 20 to 25 guys, well armed, and men that, after thinking back on it, he wonders why he even dared approaching them like that. He was upset that they were on his property, and usually things like this don't go on. I guess he's got an office just above where these trucks or SUVs had parked. He came down with a couple friends of his that were there, workers, and approaches and says, "What the hell is going on here? What are y'all doing?" Half the men went into the woods, and another half stayed with the guy who was in charge. apparently this guy was mid-40s, very well educated, well spoken, he said. And what the gentleman who owns the land and stuff said was a hillbilly city slicker. I don't know what that means, but so needless to say, he gets on his cell phone because he's not getting any answers and calls the sheriff's department. Well, a couple of sheriff's department come and park. The guys are in the woods heading towards this kind of field that's back there. And as the sheriff's department pulls in, the owner of the land is getting ballsier and ballsier. You know, he's not holding back now because obviously he's hometown sheriff, people he knows, people he's lived with. The sheriffs get out of their car. There's three deputies. There's 2 cars, 3 deputies. Get out of the car and proceed to calm the gentleman who owns the land down. Then asks, what's going on? Who are you people? They have high-powered, they're all packing, these men that are in what the guy said. They weren't like spooks, his exact words. They weren't spooks. They didn't look like men in black. Some were wearing jeans with tight-fitted t-shirts on, beards, sunglasses, baseball caps. They were clearly some sort of military or some sort of hired firm, whatever. The guy that was in charge was clearly in the part of the U.S. government. He didn't know what the hell was going on. You know, you've got some guys in black cargo and kind of button-up black shirts. And then you've got other guys who are in the woods that are, in jeans, in tactical boots, in t-shirts, your basic contractor-looking people. The sheriffs are trying to get information from the men who are there. Everything, tensions are high. The sheriffs the deputies have their hands on their sidearms. There's 12 men, at least, in front of them with high-powered rifles and sidearms as well on them, If it turned into a firefight, it would have ended badly for the sheriff's deputies and the landowner and his workers. Everyone was armed, All of a sudden, they hear 3 or 4 shots ring out. The tensions went from high to boiling at that point. Guns are drawn. Who are you? Yada, yada. Get the, and one of the, I guess the best thing I could say is military government agent. I don't know. Because how he described them did not fit the kill team that was described in Colorado. I've never heard of, we've talked about the kill team. They were wearing black kind of cargo, that matches up. But I've never heard of men in jeans, tactical boots, you know, straight up freaking contractors. They come out of the woods. They are dragging what appears to be a kind of dark green nylon bag with something very big in it. It's taken 6 guys, two in the front, 2 in the back, 2 in the middle, to drag this thing out of there. As they get out of the woods, one of the deputies instantly, boom, puts the gun on these guys, and the guys that are walking with the, I guess, body of the Dogman, because that's the only thing we can assume. No one saw the creature. The only thing is he had heard what happened. Anyway, let me finish out and then we'll get back to it. Deputy pulls, instead of, you know, these guys come out of the woods. What are these deputies thinking? You know, holy shit, what are these guys doing? Bam, gun goes right, aims right at them. Those 6 guys that are carrying this nylon-like looking bag that's dark green, standard issued, whatever, military issued kind of bag, body bag, but big. The guys behind them move up in a firing stance. These are the guys that are in jeans, and a couple of them are dressed just like the other men that are up front and with the cargo pants and shit. These guys are ready to lay fire down. They're ready to wipe out whoever is in their way. The guy who is in charge of this whole operation looks at the 3 deputies and says, "This is far above anything that you have any clearance for. I'm telling you right now, we're taking what we're carrying out of this woods, we're putting it in this van, and we're leaving. You will never know we were even here. But if this escalates any further, none of you are going to be leaving. And we all are leaving with what we came for." At that point, the deputies knew that it was over. They kind of stood back. They talked to the landowner. The landowner had heard every word of what was just said. He knew damn straight what was going to happen if escalation occurred more, and shut up too. They put whatever was in that body bag. When they put it in the van, the cargo van or the panel van, they could tell it was heavy. This is a day after the occurrence at Caroline's house. No one knew where this thing went. The deputy that saw it last kind of looked for it. You know, there was a few deputies that were looking for it. How did these guys know where it was? My only guess is this thing was chipped. And that's the only thing that makes sense to me. Was this creature was chipped. These guys came in to recover, damage control. And for the fact that they were willing to take out American civilians and law enforcement officers, sheriff's deputies, is disturbing. They leave. They load the van and they leave. Nothing more is said to them. Two of the deputies get in the vehicle as the three SUVs in this panel van take off, and the one deputy stayed behind. The two deputies followed the two deputies in one car, followed the caravan of SUVs and panel van on to 120, and eventually it connected to 79, Interstate 79, for those of you who are familiar with Tennessee and the area, at a high rate of speed. The guy who came into Caroline's brother's place of employment, or his store, his gunsmithing area, was there. He was listening to the radio conversation. You know, these people know each other. This is a very small community, tight knit. What he heard on the radio while he was talking to the other deputy who had stayed behind, was feedback on the patrol monitor or whatever. They were going somewhere between 65 to 75 miles an hour to get to 79, the caravan. The deputies called into the headquarters. What do you want us to do? Proceed to follow them and escort them out of the area. Do not follow them when they hit 79. Then the deputy who stays back at the property ends up talking to whoever higher up and says, what just happened? You know, I'm here with owner of the property and we don't know what to do. Our lives were threatened. Who are these people? What just happened? And the person that he was talking to clearly said, enough is enough. Take any information you need that you think is necessary from all parties that are still in the location. Take a walk out into the field, see what is out there, and then come back to the substation, and report to us what happened. Report to his higher ups what happened. The owner of the property says, let's go. They walk out. They can see where this creature was, in the body bag. It was dragged, obviously. There was a trail from where the guys went, I mean, you got 15 guys walking out into the woods with a huge body bag. There's a trail now. They get out into the field and they can see matted down. It's not high. It's not grow season. It's not, but there's definitely, you can tell where these people walked. They get to a location where it looks like some sort of animal lied down. There's what appeared to be blood. And he says, the guy who owns the property, what the hell is this? What's going on? What did y'all do? What's on my property? Who's responsible? What happened? So the deputy then tells him what he knows. what went down at Caroline's house, this, and that. Bear. Air quotes. He's like, why the hell did these guys come in and get a bear? I've never heard of that. Neither did the deputies. The guy leaves, the deputy leaves, does whatever he needs to do. And the owner of the property now is left here wondering what just occurred. What happened? How do I deal with this? You know, this has been his property for X amount of years. This has never happened before, you know? I know darn well if anyone came in on, back in the day, family members, if my uncle, cousin, if someone came in on their farm and started to, bully them, it probably would turn out just the way it turned out here, It's our property. It's your property. He takes into consideration what was told to him the next day. He goes down and proceeds to remount Caroline's brother-in-law. Asking, hey, what did y'all get me into here? What happened? They're saying a bear. The brother-in-law proceeds to tell him what happened at Caroline's house. He's like, is she okay? The owner of the property. Yep, she's fine. Her dogs are, dead. And he kind of things smooth over. They're friends. He was just like, he couldn't believe what happened. You've got people that are clearly government and people that are coming out that clearly appear to be government but are not dressed the same way. And they are very quick to defend whatever is in that body bag, against these deputies and these people, the landowner and his workers. Clearly, they're not going to back down. They will shoot with immunity, I guess. We're talking the government. So this thing didn't make it too far. But my question is, they came into town, they rolled in, pulled into this guy's property like they owned it, knew where to go, had the, pretty much it was a strategic plan, come in, resolve the issue, and get out. Was this a chipped creature? I think so. Otherwise, how would they know? How many more chipped creatures are out there, and why, if it was, are they turning on the handlers, the population? What's going on? Caroline said she hopes that she never has to deal with anything like this again. She is distraught about everything. She feels terrible that her dogs are gone. She feels terrible that her brother-in-law had to do what he had to do, and now what another friend had to go through, on top of deputies. These people in this community are good, God-fearing, church-going, hard-working Americans in a small, unincorporated town. The perfect environment for, what this sounds like is what happened in the Appalachia. Government would come in, do damage control, clean the mess up and head out. And if you got in their way, well, you didn't get in their way. And there you have it, folks. I hope you all enjoyed today's second or night ending bonus as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you for supporting the channel. It is your support that helps the channel to continue to grow and go, and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone's simply treated with the respect that we deserve. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, our family, and our friends. These creatures are real. These events have happened. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.